Welcome to episode 6 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast, and today we have a great guest, Sean Bogue, or as some of you may know him as the Tall Lender. Thanks for coming on, Sean.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start. Just take a few minutes. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is the Tall Lender?
Sure. So my name is Sean Bogue, aka the Tall Lender, and I'm a local independent mortgage broker in the Westchester area. And I grew up in New York on Long Island. I moved out here a couple of years ago, and really into basketball, golf. I got 2 kids under 2, so that's kind of been my life the last 2 years. And I mean, just getting really into video and mortgage, and just I've been so bottled down by the kids and life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's tough to do too much more.
They keep you young and kill you at the same time.
That's been the 90% of what I've been doing. But
it's awesome. So what brought you to Westchester from New York?
Really like the pandemic and just kind of getting out. It was a scary time. We were living in downtown Brooklyn.
Oh.
And it was just a weird time. We didn't know when it was going to end. And I think when you're living in the city, the whole point of living in the city is you want to hang out with your friends, go to restaurants, check out new areas, be outside. And we weren't able to do that. And there's really no end in sight. And when you're stuck in a 1.5 bedroom apartment, you kind of get a little stir crazy and you want to move out. So we had our eye on Westchester a little bit. My wife's kind of from the area, like Delco area. And I had friends from college that knew Westchester. So I knew it a little bit. And we had visited the previous October, and we were like, man, this town's really nice. It reminds us of our neighborhood in Brooklyn, which I didn't really leave anyway. So it made a lot of sense. And then we saw something coming on the market and just hopped on, and we were like, it is what it is. Like, let's do it. Let's go all in.
All right. So we're in a fun market. What's your take on real estate in 2024?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I think we've had our dips here. I think last winter we had like a little bit of a slowdown in home prices. If you didn't see them dip, I think they came down. And also people are getting a lot of sellers credits and concessions and stuff like that. So I think that was definitely the little dip market. And I think, now I think this weekend it's starting to pick up again. But like the last couple months, I've seen a lot of people get under asking, get seller credits and stuff like that. So I think these are going to be the times where we look back in the next 5 years. I think we're going to have another bull run here. Yeah. And people are going to look back and be like, damn, I really wish that was the time. And that's what I've been preaching too.
I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. You just have to kind of shift the mindset a little bit and work with what you have. And then I think it's going to be pretty good for those who take advantage of it. So how long have you been in lending?
Coming up on almost 10 years now.
Okay. When you got into lending, why did you choose lending over selling real estate?
So
or was it even an option?
Yeah, it wasn't even an option. I wasn't even thinking at that point. It was just more like I was with an accounting type job and just hated it and wanted to do something different. And
so
this was just kind of made sense. And I liked real estate, like numbers, homes. So I was curious, kind of like, how do people buy houses? I was really young. We were just out of college. And it seemed like that's interesting. And I'm a numbers guy at the end of the day too.
That's good.
So I found it interesting, and someone just got, family friend got me into it. And next thing you know, you kind of, you don't want to leave at some point too, because you start building up your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with a lot of realtors. We work with a handful of lenders, and a lot of the Inside Real Estate Podcast, and we talk real estate, and the goal is to basically provide just kind of give people like a different look at what other people are doing, to kind of see how there's different ways to have success. Sure. Looks like you've been having a lot of success, so I guess we want to hear more about that. But what's it take to be a great loan officer? What is whether it's for what you're doing for your clients, or just like what really goes into it?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. And I haven't really, I've been in the business for 10 years now, and I think I've been to a couple different institutions. I've been more on Like I've been on the credit union side. I've been on like the small mortgage lender side, and then I've been more in the banking side. So now I'm more in independent, like actual mortgage broker side, where I'm actually brokering the loans. So I've seen kind of every side and different systems and different ways people are doing stuff. And I think the reason I'm been so successful in the last, since I moved here, I really had to reinvent myself because I didn't know anyone from the area. And I mean, when you switch areas, it's hard to do business from a couple states away and hold relationships. So I kind of had to reinvent the wheel. And that's why I started doing social media. Kind of almost didn't have a choice, because otherwise how would you meet people and start business? And I guess to answer the questions, I've seen it all. And I feel like you gotta go to a couple of different opportunities in different areas and see a couple of different systems, philosophies to kind of make your own. And I think that's what makes someone successful, of like, and studying and looking at different sales tactics and social media tactics and kind of putting them all together and make it your own and own it.
So you kind of, I mean, you're running a business.
Yeah,
essentially.
Really. Yeah. And it took me a very long time to realize that. You kind of you get into the mortgage business or the real estate business, whatever it may be, and you kind of just like, you're just trying to make a sale. You're trying to get that next commission just to pay your bills or whatever. I mean, at the beginning, you're commission only. You got student loans, you got all the stuff coming out of college or whatever, bills, mortgage, and you're like, man, I just got to make a sale. But then you start realizing, like, this is more of a long-term thing. I want to have all my clients for life. And I want to make sure that they're getting the best mortgage possible at all times. And that's what I tell them. And we make sure that we do yearly reviews to make sure they're doing that.
Start tracking stuff. It makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it makes a world of a difference. And I think once you realize once I stopped selling and I started like building relationships with the buyers, that's really what changed the game for me, I think, for sure. And I realized, like, this is bigger than just like making a couple bucks and then moving on and saying, good luck with your house. It's more like, hey, how can we get you the best mortgage possible at all times and get you to what are your goals, and start asking them more than just like rate and how much the cost is. And it's more than that, Yeah,
absolutely. Are there any aspects of lending that you would say are your specialty? Like that, just to, I guess, put it in perspective. So I used to be, I used to be a realtor myself, right?
Okay.
So I had a handful of, lenders that like were on the short list when I was working with people. And like I had one guy that would, be able to get an ugly loan done if it had to get done, like those type of things. Is there any area that you would say?
Yeah. So I think on the broker side, it's really cool because we have so many different banks and they all specialize in different things. But personally, so when I first started out, when you first start out in the business, you kind of get like all the junk and the really tough loans. And I guess when you're starting out in a different area too, you kind of get that as well. People kind of test you and say, hey, can you make this happen? And so I think I specialize in that for sure, because that's what I knew and that's what I started doing. But now, I still do that, but I'd say now more what I really want to be working with is if I had to choose like a perfect situation, it would be like a first-time home buyer, someone that doesn't think that they can purchase and doesn't realize how much it would cost and realize how much they're paying in rent and over X amount of years versus, hey, if we bought this house and we start building wealth and building up your net worth and seeing how much money you would have in 7 years versus if you rented, because the numbers are absolutely staggering. And that's really what makes me passionate. Like once I get those people in there, actually last night we were on the phone for an hour 40 minutes with somebody.
I saw that.
And just like that's what gets me all checked up.
That's awesome. That's great. I think people need people, when they're in the, looking to purchase or sell whatever aspect of real estate, I think they really need people who are looking to do that, build that relationship and guide them, because the general public, they might know a little bit, but they really don't know.
Yeah. And I think some other loan officers or mortgage brokers have that mindset too, of just like these clients I was talking to last night, funny enough, they were working with two other mortgage lenders. They've been looking for 2 years and they wanted to put an offer on this house last night, but they weren't too happy with the other lenders. And I spoke with them yesterday and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to treat you like a first-time home buyer. I realized that the other lenders just didn't take the time. They were just kind of like, oh, you're approved. Here's your pre-approval. Here's the numbers, breakdowns. And when I first got on the phone with them, they were like, how are the closing costs between the two lenders, like $10,000 difference? They didn't understand anything. And I really took the time to break it down last night. I think I really opened their eyes to like, wow, this is more than just the terms or the rate or everything. Yeah. It's more than that. And we have some different tactics and strategies too that the other lenders weren't using to try to get their offer accepted, because they've made other offers and they're still looking. And
that probably goes a long way to building that like long-term relationship too, working with people like that.
And getting to know them. Like I asked them where they're from, where they lived and where they were looking to move and what they were looking to do and where they grew up and just like those simple questions of getting to know people and kind of getting into their mindset and putting myself in their shoes of.
It is a very personal business, and a lot of, it's you need to like, you have to operate like a total professional and you have to, do all these things, but you're really dealing with, people on a very personal level.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting all their personal information, all their bank accounts too on that.
Yeah. They better like you, right?
On that front.
So this market, like, I think there's very positive ways to look at it, but from people I've been talking to, they've had to get very creative to find success. So how are you getting creative for your clients? Like how are you overcoming some challenges? And
yeah, I think it's setting the tone from the beginning of, depending on where they're looking and what time they're looking. I mean, if it's going to be this spring, just, telling them, hey, like we can't just go in at asking, right?
Yeah.
Obviously depending on the house and how the realtor feels and stuff like that too. But like getting that mindset of like, hey, we're going to have to waive possibly inspections. Like this is reality, and just setting that tone from the beginning. And you're probably going to lose a couple of houses before you get one. And then just going over like, what are the possible issues? Like if we have to go over like appraisal gap, stuff like that. And what are the differences? And what if the appraisal doesn't come in? And if I'm waiving my inspections and stuff like that, like what does that mean for me? And how can we combat that? And
do you have a specific story that you could give us to kind of say like, okay, we ran into this, we got creative, we did this and overcame it?
Sure. I'm trying to think of one that's recent, because luckily recently we haven't gone. It would be like the last 6 months. We really haven't gone. We haven't been in those crazy bidding wars situations. Yeah. But I think one of the last offers we had accepted, there was a lot of offers that were very, very similar, and everyone's just sending in their pre-approvals and just saying, here's a piece of paper. And I guess when you're on the real estate side, you're just getting these pieces of paper. And I always joke, I'm like, sometimes we're doing a Zoom video or I have them right in the office. I'm like, look, this is the pre-approval. I'm just typing on Word, changing the name and changing the purchase price and the loan amount. That's all I'm doing. This is just a piece of paper. In reality, it's like a working relationship. If something changes, you got to let me know. Right. So I kind of use that. I'm like, that when we make the offer, they're just getting this piece of paper and they're basing it on if you're approved on that piece of paper. Yeah. So I really like to call up, make sure I get the listing agent on the phone and just go over and make sure, as long as the borrowers are comfortable, just make sure how qualified these people are. They're absolute rock stars. They got over 750 credit score. I've collected all their documentation. We've run it through our underwriting systems. We've gotten approvals already, and just like set the tone of like, this is a slam dunk. Like there's no reason you shouldn't go with these buyers. And there's definitely been times in the past year where either it's been a cash offer, we still win just because of relationships and us letting them know that these buyers are good to go, and there's really no risk in going with them. They're almost like a cash offer too. Yeah. And
presentation matters, right?
Presentation, building that relationship, being like more local too, and knowing the realtors, and that all really comes into play.
If you had to give your best piece of advice to somebody looking to purchase real estate in 2024, what would it be?
I would say, I think it's a really good time to buy. And I think a lot of people get discouraged. I have a list of 40, 50 buyers that have just been looking for the last couple of years, and they're kind of stuck in a rut and they're discouraged and they don't feel like they lost just because they lost a couple of homes, and they're like, oh, we'll try it again next spring or next year. And it's just like snowball to a couple of years now. And, I think you have to widen your range if that's your case, and be a little bit more open and be a little bit more aggressive. And if you can't do that, well, then we have to come up with another strategy of like, well, why can't we do that? Do we have to save more money? Do you have to look for a different home in a price range and work your way up? Everyone wants to go, in my age, everyone wants everything now. And, we're in this age of like, I want something and I want it
Instant
now.
gratification.
And I have that too. And there's a big issue with that, but everyone wants this, like, I hate the word dream home, but everyone wants this dream home of this like 4,000 square 5-bedroom house. And in reality, like if you don't have kids yet and you're not there's the stepping stone home of, hey, you live there for 5-7 years, build your way up, have the kids, start the family, build that equity up, and then you have that 20% down for the next house and more, and just keep going. If you're 20, in your 20s or 30s, like there's no reason you should be going for that absolute, $1 million home right off the bat. Like work your way up, live in your means, and then you'll eventually get to that house. But sometimes for some people, I feel like they're pushing their limits a little bit too quickly. And I think that really hurts them as well.
That kind of segues into another question I had. So I think we'll find, a nice equilibrium at some point with the market. But from what I see, I'm not so sure we haven't taken a permanent shift to, with things changing. Like where you're saying that, people want now, they want that dream home, they want all those type of things. But with people kind of needing to shift, like their expectations and potentially needing to come up with different solutions, where years ago, maybe like our parents' generation, you could probably potentially get that dream home right off the bat, right? But now you're talking, you're hearing people talk about, well, maybe for your first home, you get into something where you get into a multi-unit where you live for a little bit, and then potentially you could either sell that or keep it and move on. Now I think it's changing, like the route people need to go. I'm not so sure it's a bad thing if people can start getting into, building that wealth through investment properties, if that's their first place that they buy. But you might be looking at 2-3 homes before you get to that dream home potentially.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think we'll ever get back to a normal or, market like pre-COVID? Do you think it'll ever look like that again?
It really just depends. It's very hard to say. I mean, even like the building is weird now because, excuse me. And I always say this, like, it's like the old, I forget who said this, but it really hit me. It's like an old fashioned car where you see these cars run down the road from like the 1930s. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful car. Like they don't make them like they used to.
Right.
And I think that there's something in real estate like that where it's that single family home that's 1,400 square feet on their own plot of land, 3-bedroom starter home. That's just not out there anymore. There's no investor is going to have a plot of land and put that little home on there. They can't make money from it. So when they get a plot of land and they're building, they're either going to build this huge house. They can boost their profits, and it's a 5-bedroom, 5,000 square foot home that they're putting on that plot of land, and they can make as much money as possible to boost their shareholders and make as much profit. Or they're going to put a bunch of different townhomes and use every square inch possible and raise it up as high as possible because they want to make as much money as possible. So there's no incentive for them to build that little, old home that your parents probably bought, your single family home that everyone bought in the 50s, that 60s, that just like were cheap and
cute little like Pleasantville
Yeah.
type neighborhoods. Yeah.
So I think like those homes now, if you're able to get one of those homes and hold on to them, it's almost like those old, I think in like when we're looking in like 50, 60 years, you'd be like, wow, look at that home. Like it's an old fashioned car. Like they don't make them like that anymore. And that's like impossible to get. And I think that's like the mindset, because some people are like, am I overpaying too much for this house? It's like, it's only like 1,500 square feet. I'm like, this house is a perfect starter home. It's always going to be in play. I mean, they're not making them anymore. You don't see, I rarely see someone building a house like that. It's just,
No, I think the closest thing you'll find to that is like some no name prefab home like neighborhood somewhere, but like
Yeah, but not around here.
no, not at all.
Maybe in like the Midwest somewhere.
But what are you seeing in Louis? You're seeing those monster apartment complexes show up. So yeah,
those aren't helping really anybody. But maybe if you're renting and stuff, it could make sense. But
yeah,
I mean, it's tough. It's tough
I think you might be right. But like I said, I don't know if it's like, you're going to have to take a different route to get to that dream home.
Right.
But I think along the way, if you're smart about it and you have good people advising you and working with you, I think you can probably end up better in the long term.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
And you're always buying. I don't like the marry the house, date the rate, all that stuff. But like everyone's like, everyone's been asking me since I started, like, when's the next mortgage or the housing crash and this and that. Like, when I want to wait till then. Is this a good time to buy? And the best time to buy is when you're ready and it makes sense for you, because real estate's a long-term thing. Who cares if you bought in 2007 or 2008, like right before the crash? I mean, if you looked back right now, I mean, you killed it. Who cares how much it went down in 2009, 2008, 2010? It doesn't matter. It's a long-term feel. As long as you were able to make your payments and stay in the house, I mean, you killed it. You won. Who cares about 2 years, 3 years? You're living in that house and you're locking in your payment. Now everyone's talking about inflation. The rates have gone up. The price of everything gone up. You know what hasn't gone up? My mortgage payment. It stayed the same. So
I think that's some good advice. I think that the right time is when it's the right time for you.
Yeah.
Right? Essentially.
And you can always change that. Like, you can refinance, you can change your payment, you can lower it, you can change your terms, but you have the house. That's the most important. But you don't have to go after and compete with other people. And I think people forget about that. Or you can start building your wealth, rent it out, buy another home, or if you're going on the investment side, like there's so much opportunity of just getting in there.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, just sell it.
Hey, simple as that, right? All right. So you're the first non-realtor guest we've had on. Okay. As a loan officer, your client is the buyer, but you're dealing with buyer's agents at times, and I'm sure you're dealing with listings agents in some cases. Yeah. How do you view the importance of your role in the real estate industry?
Yeah, I think it's super important, because I think it should start with us. I think we should be the first people you speak to. And I think a lot of people speak with the realtor first, which I think is a little bit backwards, because it's like they want to see homes right away. But I think the numbers are everything. And if you're not looking at homes that make sense, and you're just kind of just wasting your time, and you want to, if that home does come up, you want to make an offer right then and there. And in this environment, obviously, you're going to be 2 steps behind, because people are coming in all cash and ready to go. They've been looking for years at this point. So I think it's a very important role. And I think we also have a different mindset. We see things a little bit differently. It's good to have more people on your team that have a different perspective and can help you out in different ways, and to get you that home, or get you into the mindset or approved.
Now let's transition into talk about the relationships that you build with realtors. How important is it for those relationships to exist?
Yeah, they're everything. I get all my business from referral, so I mean that's huge. And like I said a couple minutes ago, most people reach out to the realtor first, so they have to. They're relying on me, and I'm relying on them a lot throughout the whole process. So if one of us kind of takes our foot off the gas or isn't on, at all times, it's going to hinder the process. And some agents are stronger than others, and some mortgage lenders are stronger than others, and things happen quicker. And you can tell right away if someone's on the ball or knows their stuff. And it definitely matters for sure. And I think even just being like enthusiastic and having some energy makes a big difference too. Some people,
100%.
Even though you have the most experience possible, if you're not ready to go and get these people out and moving, get them approved right away, I think that matters too. So it's a huge relationship. We're all a team, and if one person's slacking, then the whole process is going to slack, and it's going to hurt the buyer.
I agree. Okay, so kind of progressing through that a little bit. So what are some ways that, and this could benefit other people doing what you're doing and potentially the realtors also.
Sure.
What are some ways realtors and loan officers can work together to collaborate to grow their businesses and, and also add value to their buyers and sellers at the same time?
I think what's lost after COVID was like events and things like that. So like first time home buyer seminars are good. It's very hard to get people out to those. I've found it's tough. Like you really got to hustle to get people just don't want to go to that stuff. And people, they really value their time. So it's hard to get people in person. Those are great. But I mean, everything's going to social media at this point in video. So I think if you're going to do something, and rather than just talk to one person, I'd rather just talk to the masses. And I think that's all social media and video.
Sure.
And that's really where I think we can collaborate and work with each other and help, if there's certain ideas that I'm seeing, I'm like, hey, just make a video about that.
Yep.
And whether I'm giving you the idea or we're collaborating on a video and we're tagging each other or something like that. I think the social media is just like everything at this point.
So let's switch gears into marketing.
Okay, cool.
Kind of how I came across you anyway. I think you're pretty active. I would say probably you're probably pretty above average, I think is pretty safe to say. Talk a little bit about the platforms you're using. What's your strategy look like?
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, I just started social media last year. It's been like 13 months. So I've come from the point where if you look at my first video, I was holding, I don't have my phone on me right, but I was holding the phone like horizontally, like an old person would do instead of vertically. Like that's where I came from. So I've come a long way. And I mean, it took me, 50 shoots on my little cell phone or my GoPro, whatever I was using at the beginning to even like be able to speak. So I've come, I feel like a long way in just in 13 months. And I think every single month, the first year I was just testing stuff. I'm just like, what works, what doesn't. And I think social media is like so powerful. Like once you get into it, like especially in our business, like it forces you to level up. Like you're just like, you have to be on, you have to know what's going on. You're seeing other people put out videos and of other content and stuff. And you're like, you want to be better. You want to be in the know. You want to know everything. And I think that aspect of it is awesome. It just forces you to be better and the best, which I love because I'm super ultra competitive when it comes to that stuff. And I don't like people beating me to the punch with anything. So I think it's just like something I put off for my whole career. And I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need that. Oh, like I can't believe those guys are doing that. Mm-hmm. And then when I moved away from my hometown in New York and that area, and I got out and I was like, how am I going to rebuild my business? I don't know anybody. I mean, I'm starting from square one. Luckily I have like refis and some prior relationships and stuff like that just to keep me going. But I'm like, I got to restart the wheel here. How am I going to do it? And I mean, it's social media, social being first, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's opened a lot of doors for me. Just met so many great people and I love it. I mean, I'm addicted now.
I can kind of tell.
Yeah.
So you've definitely, I mean, you're kind of talking about your evolution there. Like I usually tell people, and I believe in it. It's kind of what happened with me. And I think everybody kind of stinks in the beginning.
Yeah.
Would you say that's pretty fair statement?
I was so bad.
So
it's terrible. It would be I can't even look at the video.
Yeah, but it's fun to see, once now I'm cruising now, it doesn't mean you stop there and don't keep improving. But like when you look back, it's kind of fun and interesting to see how you came along. But I think that there is more to it than just creating a video and posting that, like you just said, it's social, right? So what were some, functional things that you were doing to kind of help gain eyeballs in the beginning?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I didn't know anything. So it wasn't even, I just was like, hey, Sean, it's January 1. Like you said, this is your goal for the year. And like, you got, nothing really going on and no realtor really wants to talk to me. No one knows who I was. And
yeah,
I was like, I got to put out a video. So like that day I was like, you know what, just shoot I didn't have captions, like anything, like it was just a video. And I was like, man, okay. And then people were giving me feedback, like Sean, like, oh, you should have this, you should have that. I'm like, all right, like, gosh, this is my first video. Like, I'm just trying to get started here. So just trying to like figure out all that stuff, and every video just getting a little bit better, a little bit better. I mean, I feel like I can still get a lot of video. Like, I have so many things I want to do and want to get better at, but it's all about like the reps. I realize, like, the more you do it, just like working out or whatever you're whatever you're doing to get better, you just got to do it. Like, there's no
way out.
There's no shortcuts. There's no way. Like, and it's funny. I always compare it. Like, I always thought at the beginning you needed like the fancy cameras, the microphone, like the perfect lighting, like my best videos were always just like on the cuff. Like, all right, man, this is a great topic or something. I just made the video and I was like, wow. And then the ones I professionally shot or like did with like the best microphones and stuff like that, they always got crushed for what I'm like this, or I just like, this is the perfect topic. People are going to love this. And it ended up not being good. And they like, I was like, how are people not watching this? But it's more the stuff that you're just like, feel it's me. It feels like me. It's like organic. And I just put it out there and I'm like, wow, how'd this one get like 2,000 views? Like, I'm like, what? 2,000 people watch that too?
Yeah. And not everything's gonna hit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
What's a characteristic of your content or content that you create that you see consistently work?
I think, and not to keep saying the same thing over again, but like just getting on the camera and whatever my thought is, like whatever's happening right now, I'm talking to someone in the business or something like that, and something comes up or a question comes up, and I'm just like, you know what, let me just throw that out there, make a video real quick, or like a hot topic hits the headlines on the news, or throwing up like a green screen video or something like that. Those are always crushed. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
they still are pretty popular, those green screen videos. So, okay. So, what if you had to pick 3 things that you would say to somebody that's currently sitting on the sidelines or barely dipped their toe in the social media water?
Okay.
But they know they need to take it more seriously. What should they do to get started?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've been preaching this for like to all my realtor partners and everybody, like even my lender friends and mortgage brokers, because we're all like, especially in the mortgage broker world, it's a very, very small world, and there's not many of us, so we all help each other out. And the hardest thing for me was just like shooting that first video and just like putting it out there into the space, because you have nothing behind you, and everyone's so judgmental, but they're rooting for you at the beginning too. So it's like, just get the reps in is the number one thing. Like, whether you're putting it out there or you're just making videos, like sometimes I just set aside time of like making a topic and just like shooting like 20 minutes worth of video and just talking to the screen and just like look back and see how it went and what was good about it. What was I doing like well and bad? And just looking at that, I think just, even if you're not putting it out there, just get reps in. Like there's nothing that's more important than that. And then just put it out there. Like, who cares? Like, your friends or family and stuff are gonna.
I tell people, it's like, there's no way for you. You're not gonna be good off the bat. But the good thing is nobody's paying attention when you start either. So.
Only your friends and family are watching at the beginning.
But I also think too, you said something like that people are rooting for you. I think the majority of people will be a cheerleader for you because you're doing something that a lot of us see people doing, and we're like, I wish I had, was on camera. Like, a lot of people wish they were doing that.
Yeah, and you're always gonna get like one family member or friend that crushes you too. No matter what, when you put out those first couple videos, someone's gonna be like, "Why are you doing this?" And they just don't get, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? That. And you just can't let those people tear you down. Like, there's definitely been a couple people like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this?" And you're just like, I don't even know. But like, I know this works. I know it's going to work. I've seen people, and it's just like, how do you not get it this date? At this point now, everybody's in it now. It's
I
almost
believe it's not a negotiable anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you're going to take your career seriously going forward, you need to really embrace it.
For sure. Maybe a couple of years ago, it would have been like, what are you doing? Almost. Yeah. Or
imagine if you started a couple of years ago, where you'd be right now.
Yeah,
but I think, I mean, it's it's been pretty cool to see what you're doing. I think you're very consistent, which I think is awesome.
Nice.
And you have a confidence that I'm sure you didn't start with.
No.
But like when you're doing it, I think it's pretty fun to watch actually. So
yeah, it's fun to do. Once you get into it and you start putting the videos out too, I'm sure you kind of feel this way. Like it's fun.
Yeah.
Like and the whole process, like when you first put the first video out, like it could take like hours just to put out like your own like organic little video. But like now the process, like if you're just trying to shoot something or a story or something, you just shoot it. Like it's live, one take, you're out, just get your thought out.
And I think if you go into it with that mindset too, it almost like give yourself only one take.
Yeah.
And
it's harder to say.
No. I
at
totally
the beginning,
agree. Even if you end up doing a couple more, but at least go into it with that mindset. Like if I only had one take and just said, and went for it. But
what actually something that, that might be really helpful for people that, at the beginning, I try to script everything. So I wrote it all out. I'm like, these are the perfect, and I try to like make these perfect words. I'm like, I missed that one little word, and then it would mess me up, and then I do it again, and I just kept messing up on little words. And you're talking about a long script here, and what I realized is just like you just make talking points, and then you just got to go off the cuff.
You're preaching to the choir, man.
And that's like that changed it for me so much.
It's funny. We've had people in here and we record some videos and they come in like they've done videos with us and they came out all right. Like we preach like don't come in here with like a ChatGPT script. Yeah. And then the one time they come in and then I'm like, it doesn't sound like their words. They're not getting it right. And I was like, did you ChatGPT that? And they said yes. And I said, all right, throw that out. Yeah. Come in with bullet points.
Oh, yeah.
And then work through it because that's how you're going to guide yourself. And then also it's going to come out of your mouth as if you said it.
Oh, for sure. It's organic, which kills.
Right.
And actually one thing that happens I think in real estate in our world that we do as lenders, realtors, all that stuff is we over explain and we do that to our clients on purpose because we want them to understand. But and that's fine in business and in real life. That's perfect. You want to over-explain because you want them to know. But when it comes to social media, no one has patience for that. So you got to get right straight to the point. And I definitely did that. I'm still kind of trying to do that, like cut it down and get to the point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good advice. I think one thing that I see people doing is that a lot of the over-explaining is it's redundant rambling that they look at as like a crutch.
Yeah.
Because they're not confident in it. And I think, you're picking that up as something you do and it's something you're improving at. And I think that's just something that like you'll comes with the reps, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, like once you start looking for certain things, like now when I look at video and I look at other people's videos, like I'm looking for certain things like how does it work? How they hook me into this? Like if I watch the full video, I'm like, how'd they get me to watch this? Like I'm looking for like cues and stuff. And that's kind of like where the mindset has shifted in the last couple of months.
Yeah. If you find a video that you had that performed pretty well, right? And then you take a similar like a video you did that was similar to that one, but it didn't perform, and you put them next to each other and actually dissect them, you can be like, you can kind of pick out things that you're like, I was better there, or I did that better, and then but no, I think I think you have a lot of good insights there. All right, so I have a little bit of a lightning round type thing.
Okay.
So
cool.
All right. So, what's your number one goal this year?
Number one goal is to just be even more active on social media and double, triple down on it and just go more all in, and also add a couple more skills. I have a couple skills that I'm reading books about. I'm reading like 3 or 4 different books about each skill, and then going to at least one different workshop for them. So those 2 things are like top of the line. Like they're every day I'm thinking about them.
Awesome. What's the book you're reading right now?
So I have a bunch. I have like 4 different books I'm reading right now.
All the same time?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I need to take them one at a time.
It's like watching 4 different. I realize it's like watching 4 different shows. Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. There's too many.
Cool. Where will interest rates end up this year? Your best guess.
I think by the end of the year, we might hit the 5% mark if we're lucky.
Okay.
If we're lucky.
What's something most people don't know about you?
I've gone to Catholic school my whole entire life.
Hey.
I don't know. Thinking of something different. That's a tough question.
Yeah, that would have got
Freeze
me
up
too.
on that.
Yep. All right. Something you do that helps you keep a positive mindset.
Working out.
Okay.
Physical activity.
I saw you. Did you actually run the marathon already?
Yes, a couple. That was 20. I get those years confused now. 2022.
How was it?
Yeah.
It was your first one?
Yeah, that was my goal for a couple. Well, they kept canceling it and pushing it back, so it's just like kept retraining.
Would you do it
and
again?
Stuff. Yeah, so that's a goal. But this year I'm so focused on a couple other things, and with having these 2 kids under 2, it's like I can't
That's a marathon
do it
in
all.
itself.
Yeah, so I'm pushing that out one more year, but that's for probably next year.
How tall are you, and what's the best part about being so tall?
So I am 6'8", and there's definitely some pros and cons for sure. But the best part is just, being tall and like being able to, if you go to like a concert or event or something, being able to see over people, and you kind of like it's always front row.
Cool. All right, being from New York, now that you live here, where do you get a good bagel?
Oh man,
Or can you?
Yeah, there's actually that one place, Brandywine Valley Bread in Downingtown. They make everything. They make like just bagels and bread, and their bagels are killer. Actually,
Where is that?
It's in Downingtown. Man, I gotta look it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
know the streets that well to
Maybe throw that in your stories. I'm gonna have to check.
Yeah,
that out.
that place was killer. That was probably the closest, and I just had some bagels from New York this weekend. So
Cool.
that's
Every time I had my roommate in college was from Long Island, so every time I'd
nice.
take a trip back home with him, we'd always get like bagels. I'm like, there's no comparison.
Yeah, bacon, egg, and cheese.
Yeah, man,
bagel.
for sure. All right, and send us out with your best piece of dad advice.
Dad advice is and this is another topic. So one of the books I always read is The Daily Dad by Ryan Holloway. He gives us like an insert every single day. It's labeled every day of the week, and every day you read something, and he kind of explains it and gives his perspective or someone else's perspective. I love it, and I get a lot from that. And I think having patience is the biggest thing for me, and really enjoying the moment and seeing how they're living day by day, and they grow up so quickly that like I realize that like this time frame is so small that I really try to like enjoy every single second of them growing up. Like it's been going by so quickly that I'm really just every second I'm trying to soak in at this point.
That's awesome. Well, that's it, man.
Cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Cool.
Sweet, man.